Have you ever asked an AI a question and it gives you an answer that's just completely confidently wrong? It's probably one of the biggest headaches with AI today. But what if we could teach an AI to stop just guessing and start thinking like a detective? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into with a fascinating new approach called GraphR1. It's basically trying to give AI its own detective badge. So first, let's just get on the same page about the core problem we're trying to solve here. It's called AI hallucination. And yeah, it's a catchy name, but it's for a really serious issue where a language model just invents false information and presents it like it's a stone-cold fact. And that's what makes it so dang tricky, right? The AI's confidence. See, it isn't really programmed to say, I don't know. It's designed to predict the next most likely word in a sentence. And that can lead it to generate some very plausible-sounding nonsense when it doesn't actually know the answer. This becomes a huge problem for questions that need a few steps of logic to get right.
Okay, check out this real-world example from the research. The question seems simple enough, but it's actually a clever little trap. A typical AI sees the name Ingmar and immediately jumps to the most famous Ingmar it knows, the director Ingmar Bergman, so it spits out his birthday. Wrong. To get the right answer, the AI first has to figure out who the actual director of that specific film is, a guy named Gustav Melander, and then look up his birth date. It's a classic two-step reasoning problem, and it's exactly where most AIs stumble and fall.
So how in the world do you stop an AI from just, making things up? The first big idea was, hey, let's give it an open book test. Instead of forcing it to rely on its own flawed memory, you let it look up the facts from a reliable source before it gives an answer.
This technique has a name, Retrieval-Augmented Generation, or RAG for short. And it was a huge step forward, no doubt, because it grounds the AI's answers in real, verifiable information. But, and this is a big but, this open book had a pretty serious problem of its own. Here's the problem with that standard RAG approach. The knowledge, that open book, it gets broken up into all these tiny, disconnected chunks of text. So the AI can read each little piece, but it has absolutely no idea how they connect to each other. All the context, all the structure is just gone. It's kind of like trying to understand a novel by reading a pile of its shredded pages. Good luck with that. So the next logical step was obvious, right? We gotta fix the book. Instead of giving the AI a pile of shredded text, what if we gave it a structured map of all that information?
And this led to a really big shift in thinking. So you go from those isolated little snippets in standard RAG to what's called GraphRAG, which organizes everything into a connected graph. You can think of it like a giant mind map of entities, people, places, events, all linked together by how they're related. This is huge because it preserves the structure of the information, finally letting the AI see the bigger picture.
But, even this cool mind map idea wasn't perfect. It had its own set of problems. As the source material points out, first, building these graphs was super expensive. Second, the AI could only take one look at the map for each question, which just wasn't enough for complex stuff. And finally, it still had to rely on these massive, costly models to do the actual thinking. And this is where GraphR1 walks onto the scene. And it represents a massive breakthrough. The goal here isn't just to give the AI a better map, it's to actually teach the AI how to use that map, like a real detective, actively investigating a case. This quote from the research paper just captures the new vibe perfectly. GraphR1 creates what's called an agent. Basically, an autonomous AI that can actively decide what to do next. It's not just fetching information anymore. It's reasoning, it's exploring, it's following clues. So instead of just one quick lookup, GraphR1 gets into this awesome dynamic reasoning loop. First, it thinks, analyzing the question and coming up with a plan. Then, it queries the knowledge graph to find its first clue. Then it looks at that clue and it rethinks its strategy. It asks itself, okay, do I need to dig deeper and follow more leads, or am I ready to solve this thing? It's this back and forth process that really feels like a detective on the job.
Now, that all sounds great in theory, but does it actually work any better? Well, let's look at the evidence. The researchers really put GraphR1 through its paces.
The results are, they're pretty staggering. Across a bunch of really tough question-answering tests, GraphR1 hit an average F1 score, that's a standard way to measure accuracy, of over 57%.
To put that into perspective for you, that is a massive leap in performance.
Just look at this chart. The difference is crystal clear. An AI with no external knowledge, what they call naive generation, it scores pretty poorly. Standard RAG does a bit better. But GraphR1, with its detective brain, nearly doubles the accuracy of the next best thing. That's not just a small improvement, that's a total game changer.
And here is the absolute kicker. You'd think an AI this smart would be way more expensive, right? Wrong. The data shows it's actually cheaper to build its knowledge base than the older graph methods. And get this, because the small trained agent does all the reasoning itself, the cost for every 1,000 queries is effectively zero. It's better, faster, and cheaper. It's the whole package.
But hold on, it's not just about getting the final answer correct. The quality of the reasoning, the path it takes to get there, is also way better. When they graded it on things like how logical and relevant its explanations were, GraphR1 scored significantly higher than other really advanced methods. It doesn't just find the right answer. It builds a better, more logical case for it.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. What's the big takeaway here? What does having an AI detective mean for the rest of us?
The fundamental shift here is just profound. We are moving away from AI models that are basically fancy parrots, just repeating stuff they've seen before. Instead, we're starting to build models that develop a genuine strategy for finding the truth. This is an absolutely critical step towards AI that can reason, explore, and actually understand, making it way more trustworthy and so much more capable. And that leaves us with a really exciting question to chew on. Today, it's solving tricky questions about movie directors. But if this kind of thinking, agent AI, keeps getting better, what's next? Could it unravel complex scientific problems? Could it speed up medical research or untangle global supply chains? Teaching an AI to be a detective might just be the key to solving mysteries we haven't even thought to ask yet.